Hi and welcome to Indigo Starfire. My name is Bevin, and in this video I'm going to be looking into the question, what can you do to pry yourself out of dark night of the soul energy? There are three groups to choose from. Group 1 is the larva kite. Group 2 is the network jasper. And group 3 is the black tourmaline. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you'd like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, Group 1. You chose the larva kite. So let's see, what can you do to pry yourself out of dark night of the soul energy? Okay, so the first one we have is serpent energy with rebirth. So for some of you, there may be an essence where you could be almost stuck in a freeze state, a bit of panic that is happening over the nature of the heaviness that you're feeling or something that you're being called or compelled to shed from your life. This can involve belief systems. This can involve even certain things that you at one point in time had gravitated toward or resonated with that provided some kind of core structure or elements in conjunction with like your identity of self that you're being called to almost set aside for the time being in order to open yourself up to a more expansive change in personality, change in what it is you are resonating with, almost open-mindedness being the key rather than kind of looking at it as almost a full discard, which could be putting a lot of pressure on to perform or to perfect that, or even clinging to what is familiar and known, kind of like an inherent sort of human fear of change. There's almost the sense of just setting something to the side and opening yourself up to the possibility of something more, with the understanding that whatever it is you're being called to sort of move beyond, it's giving to mind the idea of almost structures and belief systems. This can have to do things related to spirituality or religion, things having to do with like career choice, lifestyle choice, things that even if you had maybe felt there should be something more or you were dissatisfied on some level with certain kind of tangible elements of your day-to-day reality or like who you are as an individual, there's again almost the sense of sort of like, this has become so known to me, who am I beyond all of that? Who am I in kind of that growth phase, or moving sort of beyond that, almost a forced sense of loyalty or dedication to something that you might have outgrown or expanded beyond, or it's kind of run its course, not serving you in the same capacity. And so again, kind of some of what might make you feel very entrenched at this point in time in that dark night of the soul is almost looking at it that it needs to be like a this or a that. Either I'm resonating with one particular thing or I've abandoned it altogether. And there's a sense here of almost allowing kind of new energies or the possibility of the unknown to come in and in some way revive or highlight things about those core elements that you had maybe not held or seen in some capacity before, something that may almost like rejuvenate or innovate things that were very necessary kind of components of who you are. Or it might even be something where you almost keep kind of like a crutch or a training wheel of I can always return to that element of practice. I can always return to that belief system. I can always kind of keep the door open a crack and return to, that version of myself. Allows you to kind of acclimate more gradually and in a way that feels less pressured, may help to kind of get you out of some sort of freeze state or just sort of a looming sense of not knowing what comes next. If you're, again, kind of keeping some of those tenets that had become so important to you just sort of on the back burner, it allows you to explore in a way that doesn't involve so much pressure the idea of growth, kind of growth and change from the inside, blossoming outward. We also have instinct with the wolf energy here. So this really, again, speaks about something where there may be fear of coloring outside of the lines of your life or in some way branching off or exploring beyond the status quo, even kind of certain belief systems, spiritual practices that your interpretation of that or the way in which your higher self or spirit speaks to you, maybe sort of beckoning you into something that is a little more unorthodox or like a different sort of interpretation of things, different from what the collective is doing, different from the information that is out there. And this may even have to do with the fact that you're kind of pressed in this energy of dark night of the soul in a very encroaching sort of manner, because it may be part of your calling or part of your purpose, a way in which you are able to again, sort of restructure some of those core beliefs or core elements of who you are, or even come to the point where you're comfortable in sort of, wishing those well and kind of putting them back in the past and allowing yourself to move forward, because you may be at this point where there's something inside of you that is calling you to be that innovator, that is calling you to not compare sort of your journey or the way in which in the energies of dark night of the soul, in that kind of heaviness, there is, voice, there's presence that speaks within that. It feels like something that is less able to be found sort of externally, less external validation, more kind of internal confirmation is sort of the call that you are being requested to listen for, or to try and tune into or tap into, that may not come loudly as in the form of if you'd get external confirmations of things, but it's more of that quiet voice. It's more of like a hush within yourself that may just draw your attention towards something else. All of that may be in conjunction with the idea of fear of change, fear of shedding a version of yourself that could have you kind of stuck in that freeze mode, sort of wanting to change but very hesitant, or even sort of elements within yourself putting up some resistance to take those next steps forward, to make those kind of conscious decisions to change for yourself. This could all be because you're looking at it too sort of linearly, and you're meant to be the person that is kind of the troubadour for something else. You're meant to explore, you're meant to innovate, you're meant to be that one that kind of presses the boundaries a little bit wider for others that are still to come, that may sort of follow in your footsteps, be drawn to certain paths or traditions. So it almost feels to be something where you're kind of like sitting in this dark night of the soul, heavily or still, or in a way that it's becoming kind of problematic, because the way out is to kind of allow yourself to sort of blossom in some manner, take those kind of cornerstone elements of yourself and improve upon them, bring forth a different interpretation. What does it mean to you now after having gone through this experience of almost being tucked away within, or anything that has kind of fallen apart or needed to be sort of reworked in your life, or even your kind of relationship with yourself? How has this informed or educated certain things which were, again, kind of core elements of who you are, core belief systems, things of that nature? We also have sacred action, decisive focus. So again, this speaks to something where you may be the one that is called to sort of expand some sort of barriers, expand some sort of boundaries, press beyond, kind of the understanding, the interpretation of certain things, move into a space where you are willing to be that lone voice if necessary. You're following that instinct with kind of this cheetah energy here, taking measured steps, but also being willing to be, bold and daring, as far as if you get those kind of whispers of inspiration, not to spend so much time kind of sifting through the subtleties of all of that, but it almost might be something where your lifeline out of this kind of energy of the dark night of the soul, as you crack out of the freeze mode and you're able to activate yourself, it may be where it's quick action. It's almost like lightning inspiration, that aha moment, steps in a different sort of direction, something in which, you'd kind of held as a personal truth, seeing it from a very different angle, holding that and embracing that and allowing that to kind of inform, how you're moving and operating going forward. That is something that can definitely, help to kind of activate that purpose, help to get that momentum going, help to get you sort of looking at a different kind of horizon, or being the one to create that different sort of horizon for yourself, which it feels like will be very effective in, not even so much waiting for like the dawning of the new day, but becoming that light within yourself, that illumination within the darkness, or better yet, using those kind of instincts to see in the dark. There may be kind of an element here of almost looking for that salvation, looking for that kind of, that thing that's going to get you unstuck, that thing that's going to propel you forward. And it may just be a process of kind of allowing yourself to sort of seep into it, sit back, lean back into that dark night of the soul energy, and it activates, it allows you to, honor and kind of fully harness that instinct within, that ability to sort of navigate by feel, as opposed to something that is more sort of, visual or set in stone, something that is more kind of reliable and true. Because for a lot of you, this particular dark night of the soul energy that you might be resonating with this reading to watch, it might have called you to watch this reading. It may be that you're at a point in your life or a point in your journey, or the purpose of all of this is to kind of utilize yourself, like you utilizing yourself, spirit utilizing you to in some way broaden the perspectives of different things that resonate, different things that have worked for you in the past, even things that you are gravitating toward as you are expanding kind of your perceptions, or you're exploring different things during kind of that energy of the dark night, that might be something that is kind of part of that blossoming. It's not just that this is a lifeline that gets you through and gets you beyond it, but in some way that might be something where you're called to like give back, bring a different perspective, or again, like a personal illumination that's cultivated within, may be very necessary, like a necessary ingredient to sort of freshen things up, or bring kind of a renewed sense, or something very innovative. We also have wisdom, learning, joy, art, and music. So a wonderful way to help to kind of process what you're feeling, or to get yourself sort of unstuck from the energy of a dark night, is definitely to lean into some kind of a creative outlet. If you don't have a creative outlet, music, visual arts, writing, anything like that, even kind of just turning on some music and singing, singing to yourself, allowing yourself to kind of explore a lot of different modalities as well. If you don't have anything you feel that you're good at, you feel that you're, competent at, looking at it as you're not going to enter into sort of a new artistic modality at expert level, and you're not necessarily doing it kind of, initially or even at all in order to try and, be a professional or call yourself talented, but really using it as a form of almost like art therapy, a way to kind of channel some of that bogged down energy, some of that heaviness, fears that come up, anger, frustration that comes up, hopes and dreams, things deferred, things that you are struggling to kind of understand. How do I manifest this into change for myself? All of that can be something which is kind of rolling around within you in a very chthonic form at this particular point in time, in that dark night of the soul. And a good way to create a ladder for yourself that you can then climb out of that kind of pit, of that trench of the dark night, is definitely to give yourself artistic license to, tap into that heaviness and allow it to speak through you in an artistic form, something that gets that energy out. So you're not just sort of sitting within it, you're not just sort of rolling around within it, but you're channeling it, you're expelling it in some way, or you're pulling yourself beyond it. Not so much using the logical mind and necessarily talking yourself out of that hole, but it's the essence essence of almost, allowing those kind of creative juices, allowing that sort of rendition of the formless in whatever way you can capture that, in whatever way you're really drawn to, allowing that to be sort of the means or the vehicle that kind of pulls you beyond a state of feeling very kind of bogged down. We also have guardian angel. You are not alone. So definitely, cultivating or tapping into or, really using that lifeline in terms of your relationship with your ancestors, with your spirit guides, with your higher self, source consciousness, God, goddess, whatever it is that you resonate with, whatever concepts that you resonate with. This is kind of that prime time to really, just sort of immerse yourself in that, explore new sort of concepts, different relationships that you can form. It's maybe a time to sort of explore different kind of concepts of deity as well. If you've been sort of attached to one concept or something very kind of linear in its focus, this might be the opportunity to start to explore other traditions that you find interesting, other kind of manifestations of that creator, creatrix energy, something within all of that, kind of the archetypes of these characters, things that they are associated with, different kind of practices that you may be called to explore. All of that could be part of sort of diversifying in some way your relationship to, kind of higher forces, higher elements beyond sort of the material, beyond the five senses. This is that invitation. This is that opportunity to really cultivate that, to call upon that, to feel that essence of co-creation within yourself in the midst of this very entrenched energy. When you are calling out for that assistance in the darkness, what is the nature of an answer that you feel inside? If it's a flicker of hope, if it's, things that are coming through in the form of signs, synchronicities, dreams, oftentimes, guardian spirits or deities or even ancestors can reach out to us in that way, in our hour of need, rather than us seeking them out, they kind of find us. And so anything that kind of comes through for you, anything that's like a repeating theme, anything that really comes up, even archangel energy, all of that is definitely something that if it's popping up into your awareness at your hour of need, there's something of merit with that. There's something to really, explore with that. Open yourself up to that. Start to create conversation with that. See, where is that leading me? How is that leading me deeper into a relationship with myself, or outwardly focused so that I'm not so pinned beneath the energy of the dark night of the soul? How can this be sort of utilized to inform or expand my own spiritual practice, or the version of myself that I am birthing into on the other side of this transitional period? And we also have summer, bask in joy and light. So this definitely can be something which encourages you to actively seek out things which bring you a sense of levity and joy. Something as simple as like comedy, watching comedy movies, for example, not so much tapping into things, music or media, for example, that kind of reinforce that heaviness, although there can definitely be benefit for that, especially if you're going to utilize those kind of creative channels. It can almost be more effective to kind of feel the current within yourself, find the resonant frequency within something that you can take in externally, and then walk with that, walk yourself beyond that kind of heaviness, getting that sort of reinforcement, that validation, what you're feeling, what's being presented, how does that translate through you as a way to kind of excavate yourself. But there's also an essence of needing to create that counterbalance where you are deliberately not just kind of seeking out things that reinforce that energy of heaviness, but you are actively kind of as well seeking things, not in terms of toxic positivity and kind of spiritual bypassing, but for as much as you're going to sit and face your shadow, you're going to look at your own reflection. It is absolutely necessary to kind of make the best of a dark night of the soul, or maximize that rebirth process, in order to make sure that you're also filling in that other quadrant within you that requires hope, that requires optimism, that requires something just light, not as heavy. This is the time then to indulge in, again, kind of pleasure for the sheer virtue of that alone. Things that that will lift your spirits, that will get your mind and attention off of whatever the heaviness is you're experiencing within, or how that's manifesting externally to you, that can create that balance that's necessary for you to move through this process of the dark night of the soul most efficiently and effectively. So I'm going to get some little message cards, mantras that can help you and maybe reinforce some of what you're feeling at this particular point in time, and then I'll close the reading out with some initials. Okay, we have explore, love, create. The only thing that holds you back is you. So there's that emphasis again as far as seeking out those creative channels, artistic expression, even if it's just singing to yourself, that's a good way to kind of alchemize and loosen the heavy energies that you may be going through. We also have spend time on you, balance yourself. So that's a great confirmation of that idea that as much as you are maybe not having a choice but to confront your shadow, or you're participating very actively with the energies of the dark night, that it's very important as well, in addition to whatever you're needing to face that is very uncomfortable, it's very important to also balance that out with kind of actively and consciously seeking out things that sort of get your attention away from the heaviness. And we also have let love be your guide. Live a life from love, guided by love. So, this really is kind of the emphasis that this too shall pass, as cliche as that sounds, and as much as that can be not the most helpful advice when someone's in the midst of a dark night of the soul, it is nevertheless true. This is a phase. This is a transitional period. It will not last forever. You do have some degree of control as far as things that you can actively and consciously do to kind of work with these energies, step yourself beyond it, whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever it is that you're facing. But a lot of that is also understanding that part of the task or the purpose of the dark night is to get you to relinquish control, get you to go into more of a place of flow with necessary changes, things that even on the surface may look like, okay, there's, things falling apart, or I don't feel that I resonate with the same things that I once used to, that there's changes happening. It's important to understand that a lot of that is almost a process of kind of rerouting you to a different sort of higher good, a different sort of life, a different sort of experience than you had already been facing before, than you had known was consciously possible. Dark Night of the Soul seeks to kind of unearth elements within ourselves and bring them to the surface that are not so easily accessed, or that in some way kind of serve a purpose a little bit further down the road. So as much as you may be in kind of the thick of it, it's very important to keep that perspective that, you will evolve beyond this. You will come out the other side of this. You will be a changed and transformed person, but you will survive whatever the heaviness is or the experiences are that you are facing at this time. So these initials can be a first, middle, or last name, or they can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got F, B, O, N, U, E, D, Z, R, G, S, M, Q, and B. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. Chose the Network Jasper. So let's see, what can you do to pry yourself out of the energies of a dark night of the soul? So first one we have is energy with the hummingbird. So this is really applying, it feels like, to pressure that you are putting on yourself to speed up the process of the dark night of the soul, which is counterproductive, counterintuitive to the nature of the dark night of the soul. This also speaks to be something where anything you are really compelled to do as far as changes in your life, it may be very important to concentrate on kind of one foot in front of the other, one day at a time, one step at a time. It's bringing forth the idea with this hummingbird energy of like migration, something that takes place over a longer period of time. And it may be something where, you have the ways and means, you have something that you know needs to change, some sort of inspiration that has come forth in order to start to create a different sort of life for yourself, things that you have uncovered there in the darkness within that you are understanding need to fundamentally be altered within yourself in order to generate sort of different qualities of experiences for you, whatever has kind of landed you in the dark night of the soul. Conscious things that you've done, subtle things within kind of the nature of the shadow that are needing to be addressed. It almost might be something where you're looking at it like too much of a daunting process. The idea that change doesn't happen overnight, but that progression of starting to grow in a different sort of direction, looking at it in terms of like long haul energy, focusing on what you can do with what you have in the very present moment, even if that is opening your mind to the possibility that change is possible. That takes you a lot further than sort of putting the focus so much on, what that's going to look like a year from now, what it's going to look like 3 years from now, 10 years from now, or even vice versa, kind of reflecting on the past and getting too almost stuck in the energy of kind of shaming yourself about things that you cannot change. It's the idea of being very present in the here and now and kind of looking around and saying, what is something actionable that I can do right now, presently in front of me, that doesn't require much effort, much work, much expansion in order to generate change in a sense for myself. This can even relate to, aside from whatever you might understand needs to give or needs to kind of be altered about how you're living your life, or what's kind of come up, what you've been confronted with, or you've found within the shadow, if that feels like something that is very overwhelming, or it's like the idea of breaking habits or cultivating new habits that sort of take a little more time to take root and fully sort of develop, a good way to kind of get that momentum going, get out of this place where you're putting so much pressure on yourself, is to also look around at just little things that you can do in like your material world. Rearranging the furniture, doing something different with your physical appearance, organizing things, reorganizing things, something where it's tapping into that current of alteration in a way that you can kind of have a start and a finish within sort of a measurable or a reasonably reachable kind of amount of time. Balancing that out with kind of these bigger changes, these more longer term changes, can kind of get you in this place of a reward system within, where you're seeing and desiring something needs to be different, or you like something to be different. You follow through upon that, and then you experience the yield that can help you to kind of work with the energies of those bigger cycles, that migration kind of an energy where, the fruits of that, the results of that, it's going to take a little bit longer for you to sort of see and experience that. We also have wisdom with owl energy. So again, this is about kind of the idea of taking steps where you can right now in order to be able to create a shift for yourself. For some of you, this may even involve kind of literally getting out of the environment that you kind of find yourself in presently. Maybe for some of you, a bit of what is keeping you sort of feeling very stuck in the dark night of the soul is you're looking at it too much in terms of like toxicity that you're encountering internally or externally, and almost like, how can I scrub this out? How can I create sort of a purification or a cleansing cleanliness of that within sort of the present environment. And it may be something where you're either needing to clear your mind and kind of seek out a different space, spend some time in nature, get out of sort of the same room, the same familiar kind of house or the same environment in order to sort of infuse new energies within yourself, a different kind of perspective that allows you to tackle the problems that you're facing with almost the sense of rejuvenation or from a different perspective, like a bird's eye perspective. Or for some of you, it's almost, you may have sort of leaned into the idea of you can't run away from your problems, and yes, that's true, but for some of you, it's almost the energy of you really need a change of environment, you need a change of scenery. From that place, it's going to alleviate so much of the pressure of almost just ambient toxicity, it feels like, that is just making the task of personal change a lot more difficult for you. So again, for some of you, that can be experienced by, you get out of your house and you take a walk, you take a day trip somewhere, you go spend a long weekend somewhere, or you start to seriously research, relocating, moving, a move of house, a move of, a change of job, moving to an entirely new town or city or state, or for some of you, even like a new country, something that might have been a dream of yours for quite some time that it almost feels like, beckons you in that direction. That can do a lot as far as breaking up some of those stuck or like sick energies that you may be sort of feeling around you, feeling in the environment, that are just making kind of the idea of change as a whole difficult. And there might almost be something within you that is kind of like keeping you in the energy of dark night, because on the other side of like bigger changes, cultivating healthier habits or breaking free from unhealthy things, belief systems, self-talk, any kind of like physical habits or things of that nature, the level of kind of abundance or reward or, the things that are kind of achieved on the other side of that, it's almost something which is not intended to blossom within your present circumstances. So maybe this even involves kind of shuffling around the company that you're keeping, disconnecting yourselves, taking some time in isolation, and really kind of going it on your own, marching a very solitary path, kind of moving forward, or something that is just an entire sort of shift in the circumstances that you're influenced by, the things that you are around, what you see on a day-to-day basis, what is kind of feeding or reinforcing certain things on a subconscious level, even energetically. Maybe people that you're around that have kind of negative or pessimistic views or have a lot of their own kind of unprocessed trauma. Maybe they're in dark night of the soul, and it's kind of people feeding off of people in that capacity to where it's making it very difficult, it feels like, for you to sort of see the way forward or to be very confident, it feels like, in your ability to go the distance to create the changes that are necessary. So stepping away from that for a period of time, or, disconnecting and kind of creating a shift of that nature altogether, it feels like will alleviate a lot of the heaviness and will help to increase the motivation to kind of like take the wisdom of the experiences of your past and utilize that as kind of food for thought, or something that kind of generates stamina within you to move beyond those kind of barriers within self, patterns within self that have kind of kept you stuck, or that you're addressing at this point in time, that it sort of serves your highest good to move beyond. We also have Wings of Light, become something new. So this is all about risk taking. This is all about being daring to allow something inside of you, the song of your soul, allow that to come out. Allow yourself to be redefined according to how everybody has known you. The three of these cards as well, having, birds, so winged creatures, messengers. This may be something involving as well, kind of like the inner critic, the self-talk, the things that you're kind of picking up conversationally, energetically from your environment, the people that you're surrounding yourself with, that reinforce, or it feels like almost are kind of acting as like an anchor or a weight upon a version of you that you're being encouraged to shed. You're being encouraged to move beyond, either because they benefited from your brokenness, or the idea of your transformation, your change, your evolution in some way triggers certain individuals, even like people, that you have little dealings with, but you're just sort of in the ambient energy of within your community. It's almost the essence of you may be getting ready to go through some kind of profound rebirth, that this dark night of the soul is almost like a womb, where you are kind of gestating at this particular point in time before you're getting ready to spring forth. That can almost translate as very confrontational to people who choose not to deal with their own wounds, may be very afraid of kind of the idea of change in general, and might be giving some pushback overtly or subtly, which in some way it feels like creates more of an obstacle or a block, or kind of emphasizes that heaviness to where you may feel very overwhelmed with the idea of the actionable change. I have an idea of what needs to shift, but I don't know where to begin. I know what I need to change, but in order to kind of crystallize that into something meaningful, it's going to take time. And so focusing, too much on kind of maybe even the defeatist attitude, something again that might generate from within, or you might be picking that up from other people as far as like, it's an uphill climb, it's a long way to the top, it's, it'll take time for things to manifest. Any sort of naysayers within your world, within your reality, or even just people that are have like a defeatist attitude within themselves, that is translating, it feels like. And so again, kind of a shift in your circumstances, kind of going above the cloud cover and seeing everything from that higher perspective can encourage you to kind of get a fresh perspective that it feels like you might not be as kind of stuck in dark night of the soul as you think you are on sort of an energetic or an emotional level. It really may be environmental, something to where, again, that kind of shift temporarily or in a more broad sense may do a lot to kind of bring in fresh energies. We also have Circle of Eternal Joy, Timelessness and Dance of Life. So again, this is talking about kind of bringing something to completion, bringing something full circle, wrapping up a view that you have had of yourself. I'm hearing difficult to love. So for some of you, that might be something that you are dealing with right now in this particular dark night of the soul, is the essence of not necessarily feeling completely worthy to be seen and received as who you are. To tie back in, to dovetail to this idea of becoming something new, some of you may have been in kind of a perpetual search, or routinely sort of searching for, how can I improve myself? How can I change myself? How can I make myself more lovable? How can I heal enough in order to be worthy and deserving of healthy and high vibrational reciprocal love, to where you might almost be caught in a healing trap at this point. You're seeking self-love and in the process kind of running in the opposite direction of it, which again speaks to something like a shift in perspective, a shift in environment. This can even talk about kind of things you're taking in on social media, different teachings that you're taking in, the way in which you may be taking that concept of love yourself very literally, to where you're almost, you reach that place and then you walk yourself beyond it. You build something and then kind of dismantle. You're over perfecting, and there's a need to kind of just take a step back, take that wider perspective, and understand that it doesn't need to be constantly picked at. It doesn't need to be something that is kind of an ever-evolving and changing process in a very kind of rapid or constant manner, but looking at it almost in terms of like even best version of self or better version of self as an ever-evolving thing that happens cumulatively over the course of time. Focusing on kind of the favorite version of you, embracing this version of you with your flaws, with everything you've kind of worked on, with everything you still need to do, what you hope to become, what you hope to achieve, the trail of accomplishments and even defeats that have kind of led you to this particular point. Honoring all of that, not even necessarily liking the experience that have been very negative that in some way have shaped you, but learning to kind of accept these things for what they are. It's the immutable past. There's nothing that you can do to change that. And there may be something where there's almost too much rumination on kind of looking back and faulting yourself for mistakes that were made that might have led you to this energy of dark night of the soul, or where you find yourself in a situation where it's like, I need to get out. I need to change. I'm dissatisfied with where I am. There's the essence of almost just taking a breather, taking a step beyond that, and looking at little things that you can do to kind of tie up loose ends in your life, or to set even healthy boundaries, maybe even for yourself, in terms of ways in which you might have become very obsessive about that, like self-improvement path, that wellness path, that healing path. There's a need to kind of just sit and accept things as they are and look at kind of more of a broad spectrum, rather than kind of picking yourself apart. It's almost like what needs to shift in that external landscape in order to kind of create the proper birthing chamber for some version of you that is is more empowered, that is kind of like wanting to come forth. Maybe it's even just embracing yourself in a place of acceptance, but something with these energies speaks to kind of the environment or the things that you're taking in, something that is almost like an irritant by way of comparing your journey to others, or maybe watching motivational videos and feeling very hopeless in the face of people who have accomplished those goals and dreams, and you're still at square one. So taking a step back from that for a period of time and understanding that, for every kind of expert, they began at the beginner's level, appreciating wherever you are in kind of that process of change or whatever it is you're trying to bring forth, and learning to celebrate yourself there, and then taking steps from that point towards those sort of bigger goals or that element of reinvention. And we also have eagle, see from a higher perspective. So another bird, another energy of communication. This is like swords energy within the tarot. So that can definitely speak to your inner critic being kind of something that at this point in time is not your biggest fan, but it can be turned into your advocate. There's a need for some of you to almost start to reinforce healthy boundaries, not kind of be the people pleaser, not be the nice person. For some of you, this may involve just kind of cutting things or people off cold turkey, doing what's best for you. Tapping into sort of, how do these things make me feel inside? Do I feel motivated, or do I look around and say there's so much I need to do? How are these people that I'm interacting with, or what it is that I'm taking in? How do I feel about the quality of my life in general? Yes, there's change that may need to occur, but do I end up feeling more down in the dumps after watching something that is meant to uplift me? If so, what is the undercurrent in that energy that may be feeding something into the subconscious, or reinforcing or triggering something within the subconscious that needs time to heal? It needs time to strengthen. It's almost like a woundedness or some energy of shame within, that the more you're kind of pressed to do better or become better or strive for more, it might be something that is almost kind of forcing you down into this element of like, yes, there's a need to do that, but the reality is you might be far from that, or you're just beginning along that path. And so it's almost kind of, again, the inner critic sort of reinforcing this element of almost stamping you down into that kind of dark night of the soul energy, versus that inner critic kind of being repurposed, given a different sort of job, which is what needs to be eliminated or kind of partitioned off so that I have the room to grow at a pace that is organic for me. And let's see. Last one we have is High Priest, intend and create. So this again speaks to something that you may know as far as like simple steps that can be taken in order to create measured change for yourself. Difficult conversations you may have been wanting to avoid that need to be had at this particular point in time. Ways in which you may be needing to be very conscious of your energy levels. What is making me feel vital? What is making me feel drained in terms of things that you're taking in, things that you're surrounding yourself with, people that you're interacting with, and honoring yourself enough and kind of the journey of transformation, the idea that you're in dark night of the soul. So whether you've consciously stepped into this or the universe has kind of pulled you into that, it is the time for change. It's kind of, there's no longer a choice except for to change. And so it's the time to be very kind of rigorous and almost ruthless in terms of that selection process, sifting things out. Does this bring serenity and peace, or does it add to the measure of chaos that I'm feeling within? There's education that can be found from triggers, from hot points, hot buttons that are kind of pushed. That can be something within that sort of informs you about where you're needing to address things, what you're needing to heal, what you're needing to hold in a place of compassion. But it feels like for those of you that have resonated with these energies at this particular point in time, it's almost creating some sort of a shelter for more of the essence of kind of putting one foot in front of the other to take place. Further down the road, you can get into kind of those broader elements of excavating certain things from a stronger perspective, but it feels like at this point in time, you're almost trying to walk yourself beyond something that may feel like a very slight and yet significant barrier. And so insulating as best as you can, or basically kind of eliminating things which kind of bring your vibration down or set it all awry, awry or in chaos, again, specifically like the environment you are in itself, or even the kind of the influences that are affecting the internal and external environment, all of that can be something which sort of provides you with the breath of fresh air that is necessary in order to find solutions forward, and to also to be able to kind of manifest ideas into measurable change for yourself. So I'm going to get some of these kind of like mantra message cards that can have some just kind of final thoughts about the energy of dark night of the soul for you. And then I will get some initials to close out the reading. Okay, and we have, you are your greatest gift. Your life's journey is your masterpiece. So this is again talking about this idea of like taking the pressure off of yourself, looking at you and kind of where you are at right now as a work of art. This is kind of where you may be sort of shading things in. This isn't kind of the bright and colorful period of time. It's dark night of the soul. So it provides that contrast by which light can be better appreciated or seen. Kind of like the brightest stars only shine within that darkness. There's something crucial. There's something necessary about this point in time. There's something temporary about it. So not getting kind of too bogged down in the essence of like, when will this end? How do I get myself out of it? How do I get to that point on the horizon that I want to be? How do I restore hope or open to receive that? There's almost a need to kind of take a breather from all of that, lean into a place where you are accepting where you are in the here and now, and looking around to say, what are some little things that I can do to kind of consciously sort of stir up or tap into or invite those energies of, I am ready for change. I'm ready for something else. I'm ready to move beyond dark night of the soul into whatever I will rebirth into on the other side of that. You can definitely work with those currents or get yourself in that place of readiness for when those bigger waves of change sort of carry you on beyond an element of what you're experiencing. That can be accomplished with things that you are very deliberately doing to create change for yourself, which sends that message to the universe. I'm ready to participate with this. I'm ready for something more for myself. We also have dream big, dream with your heart. So, kind of keeping your eye on the prize, but not getting so lost in kind of the vastness of that you almost create panic unnecessarily. There may even be something where the idea of kind of changing your environment or changing kind of the internal environment within, there may be something really big getting ready to rebirth for you, a version of you that far outshines who you've been up to this point in time, or something that aligns with like a bigger sort of destiny. And there may be almost a fear of that, an intimidation of that, a sense of almost like, who am I to be in alignment with that? Who am I to be worthy and sort of receiving or being able to generate some degree of like a higher vibrational life for myself, or something that helps, other people and gives back. There may be almost kind of an imposter syndrome within that you're sort of encouraged to kind of look at, but not pick at too much, almost kind of, taking that breather, taking that sort of broader perspective, giving yourself that opportunity to sort of make little changes which add up over time to, kind of big transformations. All of that can help to sort of get you in a place where you're comfortable for whatever wants to bloom from within to be able to do that. And we also have, let love be your guide. Live a life from love, guided by love. So, if loving yourself is very difficult at this point, or again, you've kind of gotten very off in the weeds as far as like what that means, how that translates, what needs to happen in order to be in that vibration of, I love myself and therefore I'm worthy and deserving of love from other people, then, working to accept this version of yourself. You might not like where you're at. You might not like the path that has led you to this point. You may be very far from where you want to be or the things you want to experience. But an excellent first step that you can take that kind of takes that pressure off is learning to just accept things the way that they are. The mess that you need to clean up, the things that you've already done to sort of repair yourself or repair your life, embracing this phase of your journey, understanding that you're in the dark night of the soul, so you're in the process of metamorphosis. it takes on a life of its own, but there are definitely things you can do to kind of work with that, understanding that this too shall pass, and on the other side, there will be a different and yet vibrant version of you that comes forth. So these initials can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got L, Y, Q, J, I, G, E, W, S, U, Z, P, S, P, and R. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. Chose the black tourmaline. So let's see, what can you do to pry yourself out of the energies of the dark night of the soul? Okay, so the first one we have is mystery with the cat's energy. So there's a sense of a greater purpose to this particular dark night of the soul that you are in with this energy, that you may be looking at it too much in terms of the idea of changes afoot. I'm uncertain of what that is, a bit of trepidation about the idea of mystery, fear of change in general, or a sense of almost like a bigger destiny that's getting ready to unfold, a version of you that may come out the other side of this dark night of the soul that isn't just, wiser or stronger, or you've learned to love yourself more, but this may be something where it's like a total transformation in a way that you could almost sense you will become unrecognizable. This may be your most profound transformation of this lifetime in general, and so there might almost be a bit of stage fright as far as what will be required of you on the other side of that, or what you're capable of almost bringing forth in terms of not just wisdom that you find, but almost you yourself are crystallizing into some version of wisdom. You may be called to be like a light worker or a way shower for others. This is a process of almost allowing yourself to see in the dark, allowing yourself not purely to sort of look at what is being mirrored to you or shown to you, or what you're experiencing in terms of like heaviness, energies, and experiences purely as these are things I need to work on within myself, but there might almost be a need to kind of take note of things. That might be very helpful as well to kind of navigate through what you're experiencing as something that you may be called to like give back to other people. It's the idea of coming through the fire and returning with water for those who are still aflame, those who are still caught within their own kind of blaze and anguish. That might be something what you're experiencing at this point in time. It goes far beyond just sort of you as an individual and kind of who you are and sort of what you learn or what you discover, what you become on the other side of this particular dark night of the soul. Big work, or something that may even involve kind of aligning with a higher purpose, that there could almost be a sense of intimidation about that is causing you to almost crouch, or even with the idea of like cats kind of getting frightened and climbing up a tree, something where you're almost sort of resisting on some level, believing that kind of you would be capable of helping other people. You would be capable of kind of midwifing other people through their own sort of process of personal darkness, or whatever it is that's kind of pivoted you into this place, whatever changes that are taking place that are necessary, and how that kind of shapes and forms you into a different version of yourself. There may be something very crucial that is kind of a light in the darkness for others, that is sort of causing you maybe to recoil from the idea of that, because something within your core, something within your higher self, even sort of tapping into future timelines and potentials, psychic gifts that may be activating at this point. It may be like Dark Night of the Soul Ascension happening, where you could be very mind boggled by what's sort of happening energetically with you, what you're perceiving, what's happening with the psychic senses, all of that kind of relating into something that may open up for you, or realign you to kind of a greater purpose than you'd anticipated. Changes that are afoot, and you sort of thinking about this will become one particular thing, but something that might make it very difficult to kind of move through this process is almost like a need for open-mindedness, open to the unexpected, open to the mystery, and not just I could become anything on the other side of this transformational process, but something that might almost be a bigger destiny than you'd allowed yourself to believe, or that you'd known is possible, or that it's like you're almost ready for, you're being prepared for in a way, to where there's a need to kind of almost honor the sacred space that you're in, this sacred transformational period. It's more than just trying to break you out of habits, or confront you kind of with what exists beyond the ego so you can move forth authentically. There's a sense here with this energy of almost you're being primed or prepped to make a bigger impact on the world than you have up to this point in time, to be that light in the darkness for other people, in a way that it feels like has a profound effect upon more than just lives that you're sort of immediately touching. It has a more profound effect upon even sort of you as the individual. So riding this wave or this current, or learning to sort of sit with wherever you're at right now with a place of curiosity almost, thinking beyond borders, thinking beyond kind of the definitions or the explanations or anything you've sort of looked into as far as Dark Night of the Soul. There may be something where you're going to be called to be that contributor. You're going to be called to be that person that sort of helps others navigate on the other side of your process of transformation. And we also have play with the orangutan. So this can speak about kind of being very caged within the situation, very sort of held down, or you're not really seeing a way forward, or you've boxed yourself in too much to the idea of what a dark night of the soul is, what it means for you, whatever you are being guided to address, or you're even kind of restrained from movement forward at this point. It's difficult to move beyond the emotions. It's difficult to figure out kind of what needs to be altered in your life. You may have been going along just sort of status quo, everything's fine. You've been proactive with your shadow work. You've been proactive with kind of mindfulness, wellness. You've already created positive change. You've already reinvented yourself, and you find yourself then in this kind of essence of being held down by a dark night of the soul that may have come across very sort of unexpectedly. That this is something that, again, you're sort of being put in a place where you have no choice but to simply sort of allow to experience, to unfold in some sort of way, in a very almost controlled manner by spirit. There may be, for those of you that are kind of resonating with this, there may be very little that you can kind of do beyond sort of an expansion of your perceptions to actively kind of pull yourself out of this energy of dark night of the soul. There may even be something with these energies where the world itself is kind of shifting in preparation for the version of you that comes forth, that is birthed or rebirthed kind of on the other side of, the dawning of a new day. As that dark night passes and kind of the light returns, or you become that light, there may be something where it's almost your progress is slowed, or you're having to sit with this, because you may be kind of that person that sits with others in their darkest hour, that you learn to kind of listen, read between the lines, feel into sort of the truth rather than kind of just taking things at face value. All of that being kind of a meticulous process of preparation, and also something where you may be actively kind of waiting for individuals whose lives you are meant to intersect with, where you are that agent of change for them in a very positive way. You are that guiding light. They're not yet at that point where they're kind of needing to intersect with you. So it's almost you've arrived on some level to a destination or a place of readiness ahead of schedule, or you'll be there to kind of greet the lives of the people you are meant to touch, that you're meant to kind of help, you're meant to heal, you're meant to be that way shower for. You're being prepared, you're sort of preparing the stage for their arrival. So it's not even like you need to kind of move towards something. You're at this place where others will sort of be aligned with you. Others will be magnetized to you. Others are kind of also being prepared within themselves to a state of readiness where whatever you bring forth on the other side of this dark night of the soul, whatever version of you comes out the other side of that kind of birth canal that you may be sort of stuck in or are getting ready or being prepared to kind of move through, there's the essence of the world itself or what's needing to be tapped onto. It's not ready for you yet. So you're kind of just, you're waiting it out while things behind the scenes are kind of moving and shifting. And we also have arrows. Surround yourself with protective energy. So this can almost be something, again, where you're kind of honoring the sacred element of this experience of a dark night of the soul. Something about this particular dark night. Maybe you've had dark nights before. Maybe it's your first, and this could signal, you're getting ready to go through some very profound process of metamorphosis. Any kind of fear of that, fear of change, or the idea of like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know why this has happened to me. You may be kind of reaching for things that would sort of provide fear-based explanations. Maybe you've really leaned heavily into the idea of karma, that this is karma you're having to balance. It's karma you're having to repay. These energies speak to something that this isn't like a karmic reset. This is almost kind of an upgrade, and the heaviness of that, the uncertainty of that, of kind of an elevation. It may be almost paradox where you are, what's up is down and what's down is up. You're feeling, you're sensing. It's dark night of the soul. For a lot of you, this may be manifesting more so than just outward kind of change. It may be something inward that is sort of like feels off, doesn't feel right. You're in that sort of darkness. You're in that liminal space, but paradoxically, you've actually risen, or you're ascending. You're kind of, it's almost the idea of sort of breaking beyond the Earth's atmosphere, and you're now kind of, you're in space, or you're in deep space, and you're kind of waiting for, those other sort of travelers to kind of reach that place alongside you, or, kind of gaining this sort of wider vantage point where the impact that you can make upon others, it comes from that higher plane. It comes from the higher plateau. So it's not that you've descended kind of deep within the roots. It's almost like you're far beyond the terrestrial sphere, energetically speaking, and in terms of almost wisdom that you're able to cultivate, ways in which this is almost kind of a growth process rather than something which is being kind of diminished. So looking at it from that perspective can help you to almost not be so fearful of heights, not be so fearful as well of almost the heights that you may be able to kind of step into in terms of like a calling, something, as far as like a career, or even something that you're kind of then called to do on kind of a volunteer, like a free basis, to just sort of give back. Something about that, even if it's very simple, you may touch the lives of people that turn around and have a very kind of positive effect on the world around them. You may be something that is kind of part of a wave of change that creates very beautiful things. So it's not just meaningless. It's not just the work of one individual. It's almost something bigger. Or you may be somebody that kind of initiates a wave of change very simply, through your energies, through your experiences, through whatever it is that kind of involves sort of the nature of your life, or your focus, or what you're called to, or what you're drawn to on the other side of this process of metamorphosis. It might be bigger than you as the individual, and so there may almost be sort of like a fear. Am I ready for this? Can I handle the responsibility of this? I don't know what to do. It's uncharted territory. I'm a trailblazer in this sense. There's kind of no path to follow because I'm the one creating that path, and so all of that might be something where it's almost a very big energy that could be bringing up again that element of fear. So rather than looking at it as like I'm necessarily pressed down within something, it's almost like you've expanded beyond containers even in a way. And we have Stag, trust and thrive. So again, this is more of that energy of sort of learning to just kind of sit with where you are at this point in time. That might be something that is very frustrating. That might be challenging. That might be kind of the biggest thing, that if you actively seek to, revisit this area, daily, regularly, of sort of like, I trust this journey. I trust whatever has kind of, moved me beyond sort of the regularity of the life that I have known, has shifted my focus, has caused some sort of redirection emotionally speaking. I'm trusting that this is for a higher purpose, that this is for my highest good. I'm trusting in kind of the powers that be, or forces beyond my logical comprehension to, sort of deliver me from this, or show me the way, or meet me at that kind of proper juncture in time, so that I'm not kind of feeling so out there, feeling so exposed, feeling so kind of vulnerable. The idea of kind of trusting and thriving and like taking the lead again kind of speaks to this energy of something that you may be getting ready to kind of bring forth, or even just the essence of you creates this kind of creates a sense of well-being or wellness within others directly in what you bring forth, or even just your presence itself. Your vibration is accelerating in such a way that you may be kind of a comfort, a light that others gravitate towards in their hour of confusion, in a way that kind of inspires others, expands their perspectives, gets them to kind of focus, or start to look on things that are kind of more broad, or beyond their kind of current scope of understanding. So with all of that is kind of this essence of just understanding that you're sort of in this energy for a reason at this particular point in time. There may be kind of a time frame, something set by the divine, that is kind of outside of your control. So learning to sort of surrender into that, cultivating that energy of temperance, that energy of patience, that it feels like can definitely help a lot of you moving forward in terms of the type of people you may be dealing with, the nature of what you're having to bring forth, any kind of message that you're called to sort of bring out. Any change as far as like your calling or your profession, anything of that capacity, that element of kind of being one to kind of break through barriers, or establish something new, a new perspective, something even new for you in terms of personal identity. All of that's going to be something which it requires that patience to settle into. It requires that kind of element of patience, maybe just even in the nature of what it is to be that change in the world, that others are seeking, that the world needs, or that you have desired within yourself, or that you may come to desire within yourself. All of that may be something as well that helps to kind of transition out of this dark night energy into where you are a brighter light than you were before you kind of went into it. And we also have friendship, support, fun, unity, and play. So more of that energy of play. This is again kind of the encouragement, make friends with this period of time. Don't try to resist this. Don't try too hard to pry or push yourself beyond it. There's a need to kind of almost just, look around and find things that you can do to sort of distract yourself, even maybe, while you're in this process of things. It feels like a lot happening energetically that's kind of beyond your control. It's not so much look at these things emotionally and deal with them. There may be things on the vibrational level that are recalibrating within you, things that are kind of, sort of the work or the business of the higher realms, the higher forces, things energetically, things with your aura, things with your psychic gifts and perspectives, where you can certainly work with those, kind of harness those tools, have fun with that, experiment with that. But a lot of kind of moving through this process, it feels like it's beyond your realm of control. You're being shaped or forged at this particular point in time with this specific kind of dark night of the soul energy into a version of yourself that will then have a different degree of autonomy. Then you'll be able to kind of decide, what do I do with this? What do I do with this kind of version of me me that is now kind of come out the other side of this process of transformation. So in the meantime, until you almost, you feel that levity, you have that aha moment, you see that clear path forward, or you feel inspired to make that, there's the sense of almost kind of, not resisting, trying not to lean too much into the polarities of fear, but opening up with a sense of almost like childlike wonder, expecting the best, looking towards positive, getting excited for those changes, rather than looking at it as something that's kind of like wrong or amiss, or fearing the worst on the other side of it. And we also have guide, the illuminated path. So there's that confirmation. A lot of you may be being prepared to be a guide or a way shower for others, that it's not even so much at this point anything you're needing to balance or look at. Certainly if anything comes up, if you find anything, it's always a good idea to address kind of what our subconscious translates to us, as far as like things that we can alter within ourselves or seek to understand better. But a lot of what might be happening right now, it's not like you're in this dark night of the soul because there's a need for improvement very consciously. It's almost like work that you've done up to this point in time. Actively, the universe is now reciprocating. It's meeting you. You've met the universe halfway. The universe is now kind of meeting you that other half of the way. And there's a ripple effect in those kind of subtle realms. And so it's translating almost, it feels like, with something equivalent to a dark night of the soul. There's a transformation happening in the subtle spheres, and you are kind of, your emotions may be affected by that, or it's something to where the only way to kind of perceive it, because it feels to be something that goes beyond logic, it goes beyond explanation, it's translating by way of emotions, by way of something very raw, where you can understand kind of the idea of being sort of cast down into an energy of darkness, and the idea of rising then beyond that, moving beyond that kind of, shadowy valley into something else. That almost seems to be something that kind of the energetic body can make sense out of what is happening, what is being perceived, even with more of that kind of cat energy, what your psychic senses may be picking up on in terms of the shifts that are happening, the ripple of what is happening as far as your energy raising, your vibration raising, the world around you kind of shifting and preparing itself to receive what you've cultivated, what you harbor, what you hold within, or the nature of the light that you emanate. So it's not even like change within you, it's almost you might be picking up change around you in preparation for you stepping forth, you moving into your most effective self, you being that light at kind of the end of the tunnel for others. So I'm going to get some of these kind of message mantra cards to close out the reading, and then I'll get some initials. Okay, we have explore, love, create. The only thing that holds you back is you. So this is kind of tying into that energy of play. Take this time to explore creative ideas about, what next, what more for yourself, what is sort of a dream that you've had, or an idea that you've had, an inspiration that you've had, that you haven't had the time to work upon, or you chose a different path, and that now you're in this transitional period. Now might be the time to sort of, revisit that, see, is now the right time? Anything that was kind of right thing, wrong time, or, something of that nature, it might be where you're kind of being slowed down or brought to a standstill because you're meant to kind of excavate something from your past and sort of put a very unique signature on it. This version of you that might even relate to kind of purpose moving forward. And it's a good way to sort of pass the time while you are almost sitting within that container of the dark night of the soul, almost kind of acclimating or adjusting your sight to the idea that you've not descended, you've in fact risen beyond limitations in certain ways. And we also have you are being called into service, believe in your own guidance. So great double confirmation there of this energy of the guide, the illuminated path. So for a lot of you, that can be very self-explanatory, that you have up-leveled in such a profound capacity that there are bigger shifts in terms of like what you're here to do, some kind of bigger mission or purpose or calling that it feels like will be made known to you. It'll be introduced to you. You will see and sense it, or you'll kind of create it for yourself. It'll become available. It will present itself to you on the other side of this process of kind of coming into that very conscious sort of realization that you've up-leveled very profoundly. It's more than just the cliche of raise your vibration. It feels like you step beyond a certain timeline and in your life, and you're now kind of in a different sort of series of variables. The past is gone. The potentials of the past are gone. There's now new horizons available. It's a new version of you, and therefore kind of how you are able to apply that light into something in the material world that fulfills purpose, that's been redefined, or you now have different sort of options open to you. So looking at that energy, or even kind of embracing this essence of the dark night of the soul with the idea of exciting things are on the other side of it. It almost feels very uncomfortable because there may be something as far as like growing pains, not with yourself, but in things that you're able to kind of perceive in terms of lives you are meant to affect and touch. Ways in which the world around you is being shaped in order to receive or be at that place of necessity where your light, your essence, who you are, can be of the greatest service, of the greatest value. And we also have breathe love into your life. Remind yourself to breathe. So, great kind of closing advice there to just sort of sit with this, breathe with this, come to that place of serenity within yourself, understanding that this is a process right now that you're going through. There's nothing in a certain capacity you can do to kind of speed up the time. There are ways that you can kind of embrace, rather than looking at this as something very daunting or very frightening, holding it in a place of this is actually very exciting. This again might be kind of the biggest transformation of this lifetime, maybe even something you've been working toward for many lifetimes, that could lead to a sense of heaviness, almost a sense of like a bigger destiny, because it's taken multiple lifetimes to get you to this particular place in time. If it's not something really grand that you do on the other side of this dark night of the soul, it may just be where you've wrapped up significant cycles that have affected your reincarnations multiple times. So it's cause for celebration for almost like you at the soul level, because it signals a time where there's different kinds of experiences you can then have in like the incarnations to come. So taking a moment to kind of just celebrate this place with where you're at, because it feels like on the other side of this process, things are going to look very different for you in a very positive way, both internally and how that ripples out in your external reality. So these initials can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got M, T, W, O, N, B, G, I, A, D, D, H, U, R, K, C, and M. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. Like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.